Clubhouse. 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 Thank you. Clubhouse. Clubhouse. Thank you. Clubhouse. 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 Thank you.
Kazi, why the fuck should I give him anything? If they were cool like me, they wouldn't need to be homeless. You know, the cynicism that I hear towards the homeless in the Lebanese Maronite community, especially my family, the Toke family, is quite disturbing, to be honest. Our family has this idea that it is evil to be homeless, that there must be something wrong with you to be homeless, that there must be something wrong with you to have bad things happen to you. And that's obviously not true. And it's actually quite unchristian of my family members to have such, how would you say, have such negative, cynical thoughts about the homeless people. So, for example, my auntie Rada hates, Hates, poor people in Lebanon. You know, those people that ask for money on the streets. She's disgusted by them. And I think it comes from this idea that if you're a good Christian, then you're well off, you know? And if you're a bad Christian, then I suppose you're homeless. Or rather, no, that's not true. I think it's simply that there's something wrong with you, that you're defective if you are homeless, and therefore there's nothing that us Tokes can do for that particular individual that's on the street, because, you know, God must have put him there. Very cynical, right? Why should we help him? It's God's wisdom for that person to be homeless. Ugh. Absolutely disgusting, vile, that comes out of the hearts and minds of my family member, Auntie Rada. My uncle Charlie, who I believe worked with Maronites on Mission, and he came out from that basically disliking homeless people even more and bashing his brother. There's such a disturbing string of ugly perceptions towards vulnerable and disadvantaged people that it affected me physiologically. You know, the way that they treated my Uncle Tony was disgusting. They basically ridiculed and mocked him for being sick. They tortured him. And then he was homeless. Thank God for Our Lady of Lebanon. Thank God for the Australian government and the welfare system. Thank God for Zuzu ibn Amti Nawal for having better sense, you know, because my family relegated him to the streets, right? Basically gave my uncle no option. They kicked him. So here's the story of my Uncle Tony. He was living in Villiers Street with my uncle Zuzu and my brother. And then my Uncle Charlie decided to take care of him. And once my Uncle Charlie got divorced, he needed someone to kind of express his anger at. So he begins bashing his brother Tony. And so Tony can't live with Charlie anymore. And no one wants to take care of Tony. Not his brother Rad, not his brother Charbel, not his brother Maroon, not his brother Zuzu, not his brother Majid, right? Especially Auntie Rada. And that's why she's a horrible, horrible witch. She would rather live in her grandfather's house rent free with plenty of spare rooms, right? On her own with her family than deal with the inconvenience of my Uncle Tony. She came here based on the generosity of our family, and she rewarded that generosity by making it impossible for my Uncle Tony to live with her. And so there was a family argument, and because I know that my family lies to the police, they obviously lied to the police in an effort to get a cynical AVO for Tony. And now, what choice does Tony have but to live on the street? That's my family. They relegated their brother to the streets. Proudly. Of course we did. He's a bad person. We're perfect. We've never harmed him in any way. So this idea that there's something wrong with homeless people in essence is incorrect. Sometimes it's because they don't have the support of their family, on top of, pretty significant mental health disorders and issues, right? So for a lot of people, they have no choice but to live out on the street, and if you think that it'll never happen to you, it happened to my brother. It almost happened to me because of what my family did to me, and it happened to Tony. Those are 3 people, including me. But, I think to include me in that category is a little bit gross. I felt, that I'd be happier to live out on the street than in, a home, because I was in such a, I don't know, odd state. I don't know how to describe it, but it was intense, and I all of a sudden didn't feel comfortable around a lot of people. But no, I was never homeless. But mentally, I was very, 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 very vulnerable, right? And in that state of vulnerability, I was attacked mercilessly and maliciously by my uncle Charbel, my father Majid, my uncle Maroon, his son Saeed and Majid, all in the Toke family, all from Bat Asad, all in the Lebanese Maronite community in Sydney. Homelessness isn't this big alien thing that's super distant from us at all. It just isn't, And this is my family. I am certain that there are many other people in the Maronite community that have been homeless, even though they had family with the resources to support them, right? The support that they were not getting was emotional, right? And instead of getting that emotional support, they were victimized, hurt even more, right? Sent ever deeper into the abyss, right? So I really just want to emphasize that point. And also want to let people know that homeless people are just like you. My God. I used to chat with homeless people because, there was a period where a lot was going on with my brother, and he was finding it hard to find a place to stay, and we spent a few nights or weeks at Edward Eagle Lodge. And it was around that time that, I just started to go to places in the city where there were groups of homeless people and just talk to them. I think that was also around the time that I was drinking a lot, and I think I knew that I was sort of sinking into, this sort of alcoholism, and I found a lot that I had a lot in common with the homeless people that I was talking to. It seemed to be oftentimes a combination of substance abuse and significant sort of emotional issues, mental health issues. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, cool, people I know. These are my kind of people, or rather, these are I understand and I could sympathize with these people. You know, yeah, I felt so close to him, and for me, it was very much what was it? There, but for the grace of God, go I. Right? It's like it's so easy for me to be homeless, and the fact that I'm not is really just circumstantial, really, and I should kind of be privileged and grateful, for what I have, and I am grateful for what I have, and that's the thing that kept me off the street, really, and didn't have me sink as deep as my brother did. It was this idea that I was lucky, you know, and that I should use that my sort of privilege, you know, to make sure that this doesn't happen to me. And if I'm ever in a position where I can help those less fortunate than me, then I would, you know. But for me, I didn't really ever get to that point, right? Because I was always suffering and struggling with mental health issues and substance abuse. Last year, when I stopped drinking alcohol, it was, I think, October 2022 was the last drink that I had. And me stopping alcohol consumption just revealed that I had a lot of significant emotional issues that I hadn't dealt with. And I didn't deal with them last year. Instead, I continued to work, and I decided to work with my family. And it was in that year that I realized that a lot of the emotional issues that I've been struggling with for my entire life were directly due to the attitudes of my aunties and uncles and their kids, and directly due to the influence of my father, Majid Saeed Toke. He was a heroin addict and a drug dealer, and he was obviously, and of course, abusive. And he was in and out of jail all of my life, and he was just a neglectful kind of bum. You know, we were poor. My mother was a pensioner with 3 kids, right? We were like on the poverty line, right? My father abandoned us to try to deal drugs in Lebanon, and then he was caught almost immediately, and he was in jail for 5 or 10 years in Lebanon. You know, in my opinion, it wasn't enough. I'd say life sentence, because he obviously, re-offended after that. But I always felt not a connection to the homeless people, because that's gross as well. I always just had a lot of sympathy and empathy for vulnerable people, let's just say. So I've always thought that charity is always like a great thing. I used to do some charity work ages ago, back in the long, long ago times when I was in high school. I used to go to a youth group, Liberty Hill Youth Group over in Chilora, and I think like 4 or 5 times I went with them on their mission to feed the homeless, and we went to, I think is it the State Library or the National Library, across from the Domain. Over there's like a homeless. Well, back then, I think it would have been about 15 years ago at this point or so. Yeah, there used to be a bunch of homeless people that lived there. I don't know if they live there anymore. The big sort of homeless encampment now, especially in winter, is the park across the road from Central Station on Eddy Avenue. and I think that's where Maronites on Mission have gone to. There's also, yeah, for some reason there's no homeless encampments at Hyde Park. I think there must be a rule against it. A lot around Eddie Avenue, Central Station, the park. And then there's one in Ultimo, this big park across from Sydney Fish Markets. Today, when I was looking through my Facebook, I saw a post by Maronites on Mission in Australia, and they're appealing for people to give them scarves, blankets, beanies, gloves, and sleeping bags for them to give to the homeless people. It's part of their winter appeal. And yeah, if you have any spare clothes or scarves, blankets, beanies, gloves, I'm thinking what is like the one that you'd want the most. I'd say beanies and scarves and blankets are the big ones. You know, sleeping bags. If you have any spare sleeping bags, yeah, that'd be great. Just pop them over to Saint Charbels Parish or to St Joseph's Carpark. So I'll put a link. I might put a link to it if there is a link, if I can find a link to that post. But I'll just write it in the description as well, because I think that that's a good idea for everyone to do. It's super, super easy, you know. Get your feet wet, you know, in terms of charity, right? Just get some warm clothes, get some scarves and beanies and all that stuff, and just drop it off at St. Joseph's or Saint Charbels Parish, you know, and you'd be surprised how lovely it feels, you know, because it doesn't cost anything. And that's actually what I love about this appeal, the Maronites on Mission Winter Appeal, is it's not demanding that you know, give them money. It's really like give them something that you already have, right? It's not hard, there's no pressure. And so I think that everyone should be charitable and give something, like even a beanie, over at Woolies. It's been a while since I purchased those thermal, the branded sort of clothes in winter from Woolies. That beanie, what is that? Is it still $5 or $10? Grab a couple of those if you don't have any beanies. Right, put it in a bag, drop it off to Saint Charbels, and while you're there, have a chat to the people that are organising Maronites on Mission, and ask them if you can help. You know, ask them if they need anything. What Maronites on Mission do oftentimes is they'd go to businesses, restaurants, like hospitality businesses in the Lebanese Maronite community, and they'd get them to donate food. Like in containers, I think, and they'd hand them out to homeless people. Maronites on Mission would take that food and hand it out to homeless people around Sydney. It's so lovely, isn't it? And I think that it's worthwhile for people in the community to get involved, to start thinking about this sort of stuff. Like, yeah, we get it. You know, you make money. You know, you go out with the boys and you get on it, like we get it, but just devote a tiny fraction of your time to charity, and just a tiny little bit of your money, and just a tiny little bit of the, you know, like spare, not even a tiny bit of spare clothes that you have. Sorry, a tiny bit of spare, just the spare things that you don't use anymore, rather than throwing it out and wasting it. Be conscientious about it and be charitable with it, right? Just put that in the back of your mind, you know. People in my family are extraordinarily wasteful, right? I mean, Saeed ibn Ami Maroon has about 20 pairs of trainers because that's the thing that he does. I challenge him to, you know, as an act of contrition, to be a little bit more charitable with his belongings, let's just say. right? Because that's certainly something that he doesn't really have in his arsenal, you know. Um, I also want to contrast the act of giving, right, with the act of going to church, right? Both great, okay? But the act of going to church is for yourself, right? For you to increase the spiritual relationship between you and, you know, God. Charity is you sort of reaching out to other people in your community and helping them out. You know, it's to take that spiritual, transcendental aspect of your religious life and apply it to real world things. You know, Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, has filled me with so much hope and love. Obviously, I'm going to be charitable, right? Not like Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, has made me feel better about my sins, better about the wretch that I am. It's not about that, you know. It's about people understanding that a good, full life incorporates charity. Try to be a little bit more charitable with your time and with your money. Participating in church events is lovely, right? But that in and of itself isn't enough, right? For me, it's participating in the non-church activities. Non-church activities. I don't know how to characterize it. It's like Maronites on Mission is a kind of church. You know what I mean? It's not a replacement for church. That's not what I'm saying in the least. What it is a good booster, right? For that spiritual life. And it makes you feel better, right? But the exercise and the mere fact of a good deed making you feel better is a miracle. And that's kind of the essential, that's kind of a big component of the Christian ethic, to be charitable and to use your time charitably and to use your money charitably, you know, rather than covet your money and covet your time. No, I don't have any time. My time is too precious. God, the amount of time that I've heard of that. The amount of times that I've heard I'm too busy while someone is lazily, you know, just sitting at home doing nothing. You know, I'd probably have as much money as Mark Toke ripped me off. Mark Toke from TQM and Mossman Construction, a company that I implore to be more charitable, you know. Tithe is 10% of your income, Mark. You know, have a think about you donating 10% of your income, however small that might be. Yeah, maybe that might be too revealing. You know, maybe people might realize that you're not as rich as they think that you are. But I don't think that matters to a person like Mark. I think Mark Toke, the director of TQM and Mossman Construction, is a charitable guy. And I think it might be worthwhile to consider that the richest of us are also the most charitable, or can be the most charitable. Oftentimes I think, what does it take to be the aristocratics of the Lebanese Maronite community in the world, really? The aristocrats, the high flyers, you know, the well-to-do and the wealthies. And I've met a few of the well-to-do and wealthies, the truly wealthy, the Lebanese Maronites in Sydney that have created a legacy for themselves And what I mean by legacy is they've created wealth that is so strong that they've created wealth that's so sustainable that it'll sustain the family through generations, right? They've also, and it's family members that have created companies, that become the refuge for them. They become the glowing light for the community as well. And I sort of think, like, what did they do? What are the characteristics? What are the core components that it takes to be, a wealthy person in the Lebanese Maronite community? And what does it take to create a legacy? I think it takes intelligence. It takes ambition. You have to be driven, right? But I don't subscribe to the idea that, it's a dog eat dog world and they got to where they're at by being vicious and malicious. I think you have to be strong and you have to take risks. But in essence, you have to be a good person. You have to be charitable person, man. Yeah, of course you do. Because that's what business is, right? No, that's just let me finish the thought. I understand how that sounds like an oxymoron, but if you're a businessman, okay, there's two ways that you can sort of get about making your wealth, right? You can either be that, hard-headed dope, right, that basically just rips off people, all right, job after job, and that's how they get their wealth, basically, You could be a rip-off merchant, but I'm telling you right now, those people always fail, right, in the long term. Always, right? If you see them and they haven't failed, it's probably because they've changed, right? And they've realized, oh no, ripping people off is bad because all that leads to is burning bridges, right? To the point that no one wants to work for me now, right? I'm bad to deal with, right? So they begin to fail, right? And it's only when they realize that they're the issue, right? And that they need to change themselves and re-engage, reconfigure how they engage with, other people. That's when, they begin to succeed. But you have to be fair. You have to be good, right? And there's just something about, like Harry Triggerboff, I think he opened the Yeshiva Foundation, the Yeshiva school in Sydney, right? I mean, talk about charitable, right? And you could be cynical about why he did that, but that's fine. But, dude, there is no rich person that I know that doesn't also do charity. If you want to be rich, if you want to be in that level, right? That's just the next step that you have to kind of go through, right? You have to kind of navigate around the fact that you've got a lot of money and that isn't really doing it for you. And it's only until you become charitable that you realize, oh, that's the key. I'm supposed to give back, right? I'm not supposed to just hoard and do it for myself. I'm supposed to give back to the community once I do well, And for me, a big part of what drives me is this idea that once I succeed, I can give back to the community. Wonder if that'll ever happen. I mean, I know it will, but you still wonder, you still worry. You still worry that you won't be rich. No, it's not that for me. I just worry that I'm not doing the right thing, But I think that me making an episode about the importance of charity and bigging up Maronites on mission, big up Maronites on mission, right? Declaring that. I think that's a good step in the right direction, Watch this space in 2 years' time. Let's see how big it is, Let's see how how, yeah, because the bigger it is, the more charitable I'll get, right? Perhaps that could be the, public commitment that I make. The more successful I become, the more charitable, the more money I'll have to give back to charity. A tithe is 10% of your income, and I've got 15 Otto Street to do with my father. It's a development property that he refuses to act on, and I'm at a point where I'm just weighed down by, call it bad karma. My father is the most sinful person that I know, and I have to do this project with him eventually. And I think a good sort of way to kind of imbue it with good karma is to declare. And by the way, my father has to agree to this, so it's 50-50. But on my end, I'll give, I think we should give 10% of the profits of the construction of the duplex. So I think we should give 10% of the profits, right, after we sell the duplex that we're building, to a charitable organization. For me, off the top of my head, Maronites on Mission and Edward Eagle Lodge. And my dad would obviously poo-poo that, right? But this is kind of what I want to do. I want to lead my dad, right? Because I think that's the issue that I've had in the past year. I've made the catastrophic mistake of listening to my dad and following him, and that's just led me to hell. So I want to move forward with 15 Otto Street with the commitment that we will give 10% of the profits to charity at the end. If everything goes well, we should sell by mid to late 2025, and the project will be a good karma project, no drama, no malicious, vindictiveness. It'll just be straightforward, and we'll have the assistance of the Lebanese Maronite community in Sydney, their silent support, let's just say. Yeah, why not? Yeah, no, that's a good place to end, especially on the note, why not? Yeah, let me know why that's a bad idea. I'd be curious, It's time for me to start putting my money where my mouth is, and for my father to start putting his money where his mouth is, and for Saeed as well. Let's see how good of a person he actually is. Maronites on Mission, yeah. Maronites on Mission. We are seeking donations for the following items to distribute to our brothers and sisters in Christ who are feeling the cold this winter. So they want the following: scarves, blankets, beanies, gloves, sleeping bags. I'm wondering if I can add anything else, but no, that's pretty much it. Jackets, jumpers, maybe, coats, if you have any of those spare coats or anything like that, those high vis ones, everyone just has a bunch of those throwaway jumpers for work. Yeah, be charitable. Socks, thick socks. Yeah, you miss that, Maronites on Mission. It's almost like Maronites on Mission haven't been homeless themselves. Yeah, add socks and beanies. I'll add that in the description. Good work, Maronites on Mission. Oh, and if you're a hospitality business, serving food, give Maronites on Mission a call and donate your food as well, because that's an awesome thing. I love that. And Toke Butchery, TAWK Butchery in Kingsgrove. See about donating your meats. But it's raw meats. Oh, I got an idea about that. Don't worry. I'll talk to Charlie about that after. All right. Maronites on Mission. Big up. Love ya. Bye.